Good day and welcome to the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky Grant Writing Resources webinar. All participants are welcome to ask questions at any time via the chat window on today's web presentation. Today's call is being recorded, and at this time I would like to turn the conference over to Rochelle Cigar. Please go ahead.
Thanks so much. Hi everyone, so glad you're joining us here today on our Health for a Change webinar. This is a great part of my month and week to see everyone calling in to join us for this Grant Writing Resources webinar. My name is Rochelle Seeger. I work here at the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky as a Community Health Research Officer. I've been here since 2013 and I'm honored to work for the Foundation on their data initiatives. I work on things like the annual Kentucky Health Issues Poll, other data and research projects, and this training series that we call Health for a Change. First, let me take a moment to tell you a little bit about the Foundation for Healthy Kentucky. The Foundation was founded in 2001 as a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we funded nearly $2 million for health policy work, research, and demonstration projects across our Commonwealth. The Foundation's mission is to address the unmet health needs of Kentuckians, and we do that in a number of ways. By developing and influencing policy, improving access to care, reducing health risks and disparities, and promoting health equity. If you're not already signed up to one of the Foundation's social media channels, I tweet out of Kentucky Health Facts and run our data website, KentuckyHealthFacts.org. And you can see there on the other side of the screen the Foundation's Twitter and Facebook handles, so please engage with us on social media. This piece, this training series that's called Health for a Change, the Foundation started in 2011. And it's really to support all of the work of people just like you who are writing grants and doing programs and working on health policy across our state to improve our health conditions. So we have a lot of different topics: grant writing, coalition building, lobbying, evidence-based programs and policies, sustainability. And since its inception in 2011, we've reached nearly 3,000 unique people in all of Kentucky's 120 counties. And I see we have great representation today from across Kentucky. So if you want to test out that chat feature on your computer, what happens is you can chat in to me and I'll see all your answers. So I would love to hear what county you're working in. So if you want to chat that in to me, I'll as we go along in our call, I'll see who's on the line here. So you can chat that in via the computer if you're on that website. Hey Warren County, Davies. All right, my friends here in Jefferson County. Excellent, a huge representation. Thank you, Rockcastle County. I see you. I see you. Wow, we have great representation across Kentucky. Thank you. I love to see everyone on our call. Very exciting. I wanted to share with you all of the super upcoming things we have going on for Health for a Change. I plan these. They're in response to people just like you who say, we need a coalition building webinar. So please join us on June 26th. We'll have a really fun, energizing coalition building webinar because I'm sure some of you do that across our Breckinridge County. I see you on our call. Madison County. Awesome. May 22nd we'll be in Madisonville having a smoke-free policy workshop with Dr. Ellen Hahn from the Center for Smoke-Free Policies at University. There are still seats available for that workshop, so please join us there. The URL at the top of the page, healthy-ky.org. The Events tab, you'll see all of our current scheduled events and links to the registration page. I also want to let you know on May 23rd, Dr. Ty Borders and Dr. Terry Bunn from University of Kentucky will be talking about Kentucky data on drug overdose and prevention. Honored to be having an in-person workshop in Whitesburg, Kentucky on June 6th. And we'll also be in the Scottsville Bowling Green area for a coalition building workshop there on July 24th. So lots of really exciting things. I'm thrilled to have you on the call with us today, so thank you for joining us. A couple last things. Please mark your calendars for September 23rd in Lexington will be the annual Howard L. Bose Memorial Health Policy Forum that the Foundation for Healthy Kentucky sponsors annually, and the topic this year is medical marijuana. You can see the news release that was just released this week, and registration for that event will open very soon. That's on the Foundation's website. One more things to mark your calendar before we get going with our great webinar on grant writing is the save the date. Northern Kentucky will have our data forum on November 15th. So mark your calendars for those events. Again, all of the save the dates are on the Foundation's website. I just wanted to share with you some of the things that you all chatted in with us, sent in on your registration forms on what you wanted to learn from today's webinar. And this person said, I'm a new grant writer. I'm hoping to learn as much as possible about grant writing. Some other folks says, I'm just beginning. I haven't met any challenges yet. Another person says, our organization does not accept government funding, so we must be creative. And finally, to the registration question, what success or tips do you want to share with us? Someone said, tell your story with enthusiasm and optimism. Another person wrote, be vigilant in your pursuit. And another person wrote the same, be determined and don't give up. So I'm honored to be working with you to do this thing to help improve the health of Kentuckians and to support each other in the Commonwealth. So thank you for joining us, chatting your questions, because we have a great presenter here for you this afternoon. Ken Wucher, he's with the Louisville Free Public Library, and he's an expert on this topic. And I'm going to turn the call over to Ken. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, thank you, Rochelle, for asking me to speak today, because I love to talk about grant seeking and grant writing. And today we're going to do just that. The Louisville Free Public Library is a connection with the Foundation Center. In fact, we've been connected with the Foundation since 1974, so we have a long, rich history with the Foundation. Okay, as I said, my name is Ken Wucher, and I'm the Small Business and Nonprofit Resources Librarian for the Louisville Free Public Library. I've been doing that for about a dozen years or so, and I teach classes in grant seeking, grant writing, fundraising, small business resources online, how to write a business plan. I also do what we call librarian and Zen. I meet one-on-one with clients to talk about and look for grants, or help someone write a grant, or help them with their getting their small business started. I also go out and attend nonprofit conventions, speak at them, also speak at luncheons. You know, some people work for food. I speak for food, so keep me in mind if you need a speaker. All right. Nonprofit organizations, they do fulfill a need. And as you can see, there are all kinds of needs out there, as we know. And I like to begin with this quote by Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, is the only thing that ever has. And I love to begin with that quote because I think it really sums up the determination, the strength, the energy that you need to be successful in the nonprofit world. All right, today we're going to learn some key points about finding funding opportunities. We're going, of course, become familiar with the Foundation Center database. Unfortunately, we won't be able to tap into the actual database, but I'll give you some tips on searching it, and I will show you how to find a location that is close to you so you can use the resource. And then I'm going to talk about grant writing. All right, looks like we have a question here. Rochelle?
Yeah, hey Ken, I put in a poll for everyone, so if you're on your computers, how many grant proposals have you submitted in your lifetime? So you can select an answer there. Have you submitted 0 proposals, 1 or 2, 3 to 5, more than 5, so many I could do Ken's job? So let us know how many you've submitted. We're just going to leave the poll open for just a moment because we have lots of material to cover. All right, here we go, folks. Show us the results. All right, about 25% of people have never submitted a grant. That's awesome. And then about nearly 25% have done more than 5. And Ken, it looks like 9% could do your job. So they're in listen-only mode. And now I'm going to turn it back over to you, Ken.
Okay. I'm going to start off with some basic facts grant seekers need to know. In 2018, individuals gave over $300 billion to charitable nonprofit organizations. And that is not a typo. That is an actual number. And that blows my mind every time I read that. $300 billion. And that's individuals. That's you, me, your neighbor, just giving dollars out or whatever. And that's 75% of all charitable giving in the U.S. So it is the individuals that where most money comes from. We are lucky to live in a state. Although we don't have a lot of resources in Kentucky, but for some reason people in Kentucky are very generous. And I'm lucky to live in Louisville because people in Louisville are very generous. If you've ever heard of the Crusade for Children's, we raise over $6 million each year, and that's just what individuals giving dollar bills into the boot. Other resources include the foundations, which are at 17%, and that's all of them, the independent, corporate, and the community. Government, federal, state, and local. Everybody says, all the government does is give out money, but actually, as you can see there, that's not a typo, 4%. So there's not a lot of funding giving out by the government. There is some, but it's not as much as some people think. And the bequest, which is that plan giving, which is also at 4%. Foundations typically fund only 10% of grant proposals they receive. I'll put that in there not to scare you or anything, but just to let you know it is very competitive out there. You've got to work hard. But if you have a strong mission statement, if you have excellent programs, and most importantly, if you're helping your community, and believe me, if you are helping the community, word gets out fast, then you can find money out there for you. But again, it is challenging, and it's kind of like that writer trying to get that first novel published. You just got to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, and eventually, if you're solid, it will happen. The majority of these grants are not renewable, but spread over several years. So in the old days, actually, a lot of grants were renewable, and you could keep going with that stream of funding. But nowadays, because there are so many excellent nonprofits and people doing such wonderful work out there, usually foundations will not renew it automatically, and they spread it over several years. It's usually a 3-year cycle where you receive a certain amount of money. So don't expect them to cut you a check for the full amount the next day. All right, once awarded grant, money is often restricted to its stated purpose, which sounds obvious, but once you start receiving funding, you may have a little left over. You may think, well, we could put it to this program. We want to save the puppies over here, and everybody wants to save the puppies, so they won't mind, and so you use the money there, which can be fine, but make sure you tell that funder that you are doing that. They want to be told. They want to be kept in the loop at all times, so make sure you tell them. And from what I hear, usually they will, but just notify them. And it's a common problem for nonprofit organizations to become grant-driven. Grant-driven, now that's an interesting phrase, and my classes always bring that up, and I get all kinds of responses. And you know what, there's really not a wrong answer, but one thing that sticks out in my mind, and I see it all the time with nonprofits, is that once you start receiving that funding, it feels good, and you become so focused on trying to get more money, receive more funding that you forget what? About your mission, about your programs, about helping the community. So you need to be careful about that. And I think I just skipped one. Go back. All right, and that leads me to developing an overall funding plan, and that includes multiple sources. And those can be the governmental, the public funding, earned income, like membership fees, product and service fees. I belong to a nonprofit here in town. We're small and just starting out, and we rely heavily on membership fees and on service fees. We sell our artwork, and a certain percentage of that goes back to the nonprofit. But we're hoping over the years that each section will shrink and will become more reliable in some of these other areas, like the private giving, the institutional philanthropy, the foundations, the corporations, and of course those individual gifts. Can never forget that. And fundraising events. I mean, no matter how successful your nonprofit is, I see it all the time. There'll be a time where you'll have to fundraise. It's just a part of the game. And that's why I started a class in fundraising, because I saw that need out there. So be prepared. All right, went the wrong way there. All right, before you begin searching for grants, is your organization grant ready? And one of the first things you need to consider is having IRS designation as a 501c3. Also a strategic plan. You really need to identify those funding priorities. Of course, the mission statement, I can't stress enough the importance of that. And experiencing managing grant, of course, is always helpful. It's like anything, like you're looking for a job. They want experience. And if you're a nonprofit just starting out, I don't have experience. But, like I said, you just have to stick with it. And just like getting that first job, eventually you can do it. All right, the IRS designation is a 501c3. All right, be prepared. There's going to be some paperwork. Now, most of the people that I work with, I steer them to the Legal Aid of Louisville Society, and they pretty much serve the Derby City. And the legal aids across the state can help you with that, getting you the paperwork. They do that for free. The Legal Aid of Kentucky, which serves Western Kentucky, and then there's the Legal Aid of the Bluegrass, which serves Eastern Kentucky. And so those are a good source to get that paperwork. And this classification can be granted only a few weeks, so I know when I first started over a dozen years ago, it was a long process. It took months and months and months, but now people say, oh, it's 2 weeks and I've got it. So, don't really worry about that too much. And absolutely necessary when seeking funding, so you do need that now. Okay. All right, do not chase the money. And what I mean by that is don't write a grant to start a new project you really don't need or want just because you want to bring funding into your organization, because you'll be looking for grants and you'll say, oh, maybe if I tweak this a little. But no, you want to stick to what you're good at, to your mission, to your programs, because really funders in the long run, they'll know. They'll know what you're passionate about, and that's really what you want to stick to. So please don't chase that money. All right, helpful websites. In a minute we're going to look at the Foundation directory online, the professional version. But you can't always get to a location that has that. We have it at the Louisville Free Public Library. But there are some excellent websites out there to help you with your grant seeking, writing, and fundraising needs. And such as the Foundation Center itself has a website. And it is great information just on all aspects. of nonprofits and foundations. And what I really like about it, they have excellent grant writing samples. I mean, when I write, whatever I write, I like to see samples, and I think their website has some excellent, they have the full proposals. In fact, I think they have 15 full-length proposals on it, and they also have sections broken down, letters of inquiry, budget sections, and so forth. So it is an excellent resource, but I recommend you spending some time with it, the website itself, because there's just all kinds of useful information there. And when you find that grant, you're ready, you'll need statistics. And the Census Bureau, census.gov, is an excellent resource for those statistics. Funders really don't care what you think or feel. You know, I think we should help children eat breakfast in the morning. That, you know, what they want is just the cold hard facts, like 270 children in the Portland area go without breakfast each and every day. So the census.gov can help you with that. I work with a lot of grant writers, and I always ask them, where do you get your facts? And just like almost all of them immediately say American Fact Finder. So I have that on here, American Fact Finder. And what's great about it, it's broken down. You can search by zip code, so you can get the real community facts that you need on that. GuideStar.org is excellent for the 990s. That's that IRS form. And it gives information on your funders, where each, in fact, it breaks it down where each dollar is going, so you can look for like organizations. It has trustees and board members and so forth, so if you have a connection, it's a good source for that. Louisville Free Public Library, lfpl.org. We have a lot of good, excellent statistics and demographics and a lot of good information there. So don't forget us. And don't forget the sos.ky.gov, Secretary of State. You get your filing requirements there for Kentucky, and irs.gov for your federal. So don't forget the websites. All right, a few more. I used to teach. I taught for a lot of years, and I wrote grants for different programs that I worked with. And education, the Kentucky Department of Education is an excellent source. Also, grantproposals.com is an excellent source in K-12. What I really like about K-12 and 12grants.org is that it gives some fundraising suggestions. Now, most of these are geared for schools, but you can modify them, and they work well for other organizations. And a new one I stumbled on, it is a .com, but it is a good source at grantwrangler.com. All right, to get the grant, you have to find the right match, and that's really what it's about, finding the right match. So if you are turned down, don't get your feelings hurt, because it's probably because you're just not finding the right match. And that includes who funds in my area of interest and the population I serve, who funds in my geographical region, that's very important, and who will provide the type of support I need. All right, and believe it or not, the proposal is typically not the first thing a foundation wants. And that's good, because proposals take a lot of time. There's a lot of sections. It's a big commitment to write a full proposal. And you really don't want to do that. What you really want to do is make that initial approach. And you can do that. The foundation database, there's a section that usually tells you how to contact the foundation. And if they'll let you make a phone call, jump on that phone call. I mean, that's easy. You can pick up the phone, give them a call, talk to them. It's a great way. Just make sure you know who you're talking to and why. I mean, stay brief, to the point, and contacts. Can't underestimate those contacts. But yeah, that phone calls, emails, that kind of things, letters of inquiries, just short things you want to send out to funders initially. All right, some key takeaways. Again, finding the right fit, can't stress that enough. Now the funders, it's great that they're willing to give out this money, but you know what? They want a little back for themselves, so make sure you keep them in mind and look for their interests and motivations and include those as well. And again, can't stress enough, be prepared, know who you're approaching and why. All right, got
Thanks,
another
Ken.
question here.
Yeah, time for another poll. All right, everyone. First, I just want to remind you that you can chat in your questions, and we'll do our best to answer those if there's time allowed on the call. So chat those into us via your chat box if you're already thinking of questions. This poll, how many times have you used the Foundation Center website? That's the online center information. 0 times, 1 time, more than once, or you use it every day. So if you want to fill in your answer, and we'll cue Ken up to give us all he knows about the Foundation website. Here we go. Here are the results. 62% of people have never used the Foundation Center website, Ken. So let's get the show on the road, Ken.
All right. Using the Foundation directory online. Okay, to find grant makers. Believe it or not, when I first started over a dozen years ago, that's what the directory looked like. And to me now, it just looks like something out of the Middle Ages or something. It just looks like so old and outdated. But that's the way it was. I like to look at that just because it reminds me how far we've come. All right, Foundation directory searching. Unfortunately, we won't be able to actually go to the database today, but I'm going to give you some pointers. And the first pointer is use the advanced search. When you first open the directory, it just goes to a single window, but up on the top right, they'll have an advanced search. Click on that, please, and then you'll get 6 windows. And I notice if someone doesn't have experience with the database, they'll want to plug in information to all 6 windows, and you really don't want to do that because that's kind of an overload and it will narrow your choices too far. What I do when I search, I do a lot of one-on-ones and help people find grants. I may look with them, we'll probably look at 30 or 40 organizations, but we'll walk away. I'll walk away, try to help them find 6 to 10 possibilities. And what we'll do is the first window on the left is a search area, and we always use that. And when you click on that, you'll get categories like education, human services, and those can be broken down further, but I usually just go for the main heading just to keep it broad because I like to search broad because you can always narrow it. So. And then the only other window I fill in is the location, and most of the grant seekers I work with are small, so we just stay with Kentucky. Although I have worked with the University of Louisville, and of course the University of Louisville is big. In fact, I did global searches with them. University of Louisville does some wonderful things, and they're recognized, I kid you not, across the world. And so we can search that way, but here most of the time we just use Kentucky. Although it can be broken down to counties and so forth, but just usually use the general Kentucky. And you'll get your results, and you'll get the grant makers, you'll get the grants, you'll get the recipients, which is good for you want to look for like organizations, and then you get those 990 forms, which is good for the further research. And then I usually go directly to a grant maker. And I'll go quickly because, like I said, I'll go through 30 and 40 in 1 hour with a person. But I just want to help them find some possibilities. And what we do is we'll email the results, and you'll get all the information that the database provides on this email. But then you can go back to your office or home and take a closer look at it and make sure that that's someone you do want to make that initial contact to. And what you'll see is the areas being funded when you get all the information, and it'll be areas like education, human service, and so forth, and where the money is going. So if you see Kentucky, that would be good. and how big the grants are, 5,000, a million. But there's a lot of smaller grants. I work with people who get $50 grants, $100 grants, and sometimes they'll frown at me, and I'll tell them, it just adds up, a little here, a little there. You'd be surprised how quickly it will add up. So don't forget about those smaller grants. All right, and also you'll see funding interests, the subject areas, and so if your area is under that, that's a good sign. And then you'll get some information about the grant maker. If you do want to make that initial approach, you do want to have some information about them. Don't go in blind. Make sure you know something about them. You want to make them feel good as well. And that's an excellent source right there for that. And then they'll also give you other funders to consider, which is a nice feature. So you can just look at those as well to get your quick possibilities. But like I said, I go through a lot of grant makers in an hour with the client, and what I do, instead of looking at all that information that I've just told you about, I'll let them do that if it is a possibility. And the first thing I do when I pull up a grant is go directly to the application, the RFP, request for proposal, because that gives you the deadlines, it gives you the giving areas and the giving limitations. And when you see this, do not accept unsolicited grant proposals, immediately you know you're not included because they've already, it's their money, they can do what they want with it. They've already pre-selected groups. So you can eliminate them immediately and go to the next one. And so that's why I go immediately to the application section so I know if it's even a possibility for them. And then also you'll see the financials and the expenditures and the giving areas, the who's who, the officers and directors, which I said it can be important. I used to help a guy all the time. He was very experienced, but when we would always go to the who's who, and he would know so many of the officers and directors that were on those foundations and so forth, and that's how he worked, and he raised a lot of money. And communication lines are there. There's social media. Everybody's on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything. And then the contact information, again, that you'll need for your initial contact is there as well. All right. And one additional searching method I recommend is, besides the subject area search, is the subject strategy, the support strategy search. And under that support strategy, it's underneath an additional filters. You get, like I said, the 6 windows, but underneath there you'll get a little link that says additional support strategies. You click on that, and there's where you can find, like I work with a lot of people, they need buildings, or they need money to renovate a building they have, and equipment, of course. Seed money. A lot of times I get people that need seed money, and of course always people that need program support, and that filter, that support strategy section is a good source for that. And so that's kind of a quick overview of the Foundation Directory, but as you can see, there's a lot there, and I work with so many people, and it really works. It is an excellent resource, so please use it. And that takes us to finding one near you, and when you go to their website, foundationcenter.org, you're on your home page, just scroll to the bottom, and you'll see Foundation Center is trusted around the world. And then and all you have to do is type in your zip code, and it'll pull up a location right there. It's really very simple. All right, some additional funding sources besides the Foundation Center database is grants.gov, and that's for the federal grants. That's kind of a one-stop shop for federal grants. You can search for your grant there. You can apply for your grant, track your grant, and get your result, your yes or no, right there, all on that website. and they have excellent tech support. And it's 24/7, in fact, because 3 a.m. you might be reading this proposal, you're thinking, or this grant application. Oh, what does that mean? Call them, please. I attended a workshop taught by John Yarmouth a few years ago, and he's like, call us anytime. We'll be glad to help you. So a lot of nice people there. Grantwatch.com is an excellent source. It's one of those paid services. You're seeing more and more of those now as the commercial market taps into this. It's really nice. I must admit that, but it's kind of expensive, so I don't know. I would stay clear from it, but it is a nice source. Also, funds, not services, another paid subscription that's pretty good. And sometimes, just a Google search can work. I don't recommend that a lot because, obviously there's a lot of misinformation there, but I have heard of a few successes there, so don't totally count that out. All right, that takes us to grant writing. And like I said, I teach a class in grant writing, and I always like to begin with this image. We have here Shakespeare and Dickens with a slash through them. Of course, I always ask, what does that mean? And of course, I get 1,000 different answers. None of them wrong, but of course, what I'm looking for, I don't, get this as much as I used to, but people are just terrified. Oh, I'm not a great writer. I can't write a great proposal. Oh, I just, you don't have to be a great writer. You don't have to be Shakespeare. You don't have to be Dickens. You don't even have to be, I don't know, your local writer. It's not really about that. Of course, what it's about, obviously, is your mission statement, your programs, and most importantly, how are you helping the community? Those are the things that really count. Here I've seen proposals that are awarded a lot of money, and I'm looking at that, and it's just real simple, choppy sentences. You can understand them, you can read them. That's what I stress. Just make sure that people can understand it. But they're not eloquent in any manner, but they have what's necessary, and that's what it's about. So don't worry about being a great writer. All right, and the most important thing about grant writing, the most important skill, of course, is not being a great writer. It is about managing the planning process. If you've ever done that, if you've ever tried to manage a process like that, it can be very stressful and very time-consuming. So that's really what's important. Both for the project and for developing that grant application. That's really important. And of course, facilitating the group processes. When you're working with a bunch of people getting things together, it takes a lot of work. And really, if you have that skill, you've got a long way. You've come a long way to getting what you need. All right, and before you write, please get organized. For me, I'm kind of old school. I like to use a binder. Keeps me organized. Of course, you can do it on the computer. I always recommend you read that request for proposal, that RFP instructions, several times. Several times. I don't think I ever read anything twice before I was in graduate school. And when I started reading things more than once, it was amazing how much I learned. So don't underestimate what you can learn. You may think that you saw everything that first or second time, but believe me, keep going over it. Things pop out. It's unbelievable what you can learn. Make notes. Always make notes. Always make notes. Highlight. And I always like to highlight phrases that I see, and I always sprinkle my proposals with a little bit of their language, a little bit of their jargon. I think it kind of helps out. And develop your outline based on, always ask or request a scoring rubric and develop your proposal based on that. All right, key proposal components. Now, at the library, we get all kinds. We get funders that will say, oh, send us anything. okay? But then we'll get funders that'll say, they'll send us 3 pages of single space type thing. We want this and this and this. And, and then you get ones all in between there. So it's never the same. It's always different. Always what they want is different. But over the years, I've noticed there are some key things that they do want, and they are listed here. Of course, they want to know your background. So you need a background statement, a need statement. You need a need statement. There has to be that. Goals and objectives are very important, and I'll distinguish what the difference is in a minute. A project plan, of course, in the timeline. Evaluation plan. Most of the time they always ask for an evaluation plan because they want to see that you're looking at yourself, evaluating yourself. Staffing, sometimes they'll go for budget. Almost always, of course, they want your budget. They want to look at that. Appendices, and sometimes they'll want those, but letters of recommendation, almost always. If you can get those, please do that. All right, the Library Foundation background statement is here. Louisville Free Public Library Foundation, Inc. was established as a nonprofit corporation in 1980. It was organized for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, supporting, encouraging, and enhancing the programs and services of the Louisville Free Public Library. The foundation is governed by a self-perpetuating voluntary board of directors and solicits, receives, and acquires donations of public and private funds on behalf of the Louisville Free Public Library. The Louisville Library Foundation serves as a fiscal agent on behalf of the Louisville Free Public Library for all grants and donations. So make sure that's our foundation, our background statement, and you'll need one of those. And needs. And there's a needs, a problem. That drives the whole proposal. And there's obviously all kinds of needs: national needs, state needs, regional needs, local needs. But there has to be a need. There's probably not going to be money out there unless there is a need, so you'll need a need statement. And you'll need documentation. Again, like I said earlier, they just don't want to see how you think or feel. They want facts. So you want to show me the numbers, get the data to support your needs, not what you think or feel. Use current relevant data and information, and you always must prove that there's a compelling problem. Those facts can help you do that. Now, anecdotal information is okay, but it needs to enhance your data. And always, like the sophomore English teacher, cite your sources. Include that reference page. All right, and some examples where you can get those facts. For here in Kentucky, like I said, I work with a lot of small nonprofits, and the Kentucky State Data Center, we have all these on our website, and hopefully your library near you would have those as well. The State Data Center is good for those regional statistics. Of course, I mentioned the Census Bureau facts on everything. Kentucky Kids Count, I like that a lot for teachers. We can get a lot of community facts there, which are helpful. American Fact Finder again, and Kentucky County Profiles, again, for regional statistics is good. All right, like I said, there needs to be a need. And here's a sample need that we found at the Louisville Free Public Library over 9 years ago. And we're coming up again on that cycle here. Regardless of their socioeconomic status, many children and teens experience what is known as the summer slide, a setback in intellectual growth due to inactivity. Summer learning loss is cumulative over time and contributes substantially to an achievement gap in reading skills and comprehension. What can we do to help those children who may be at risk of experiencing the summer slide? Research by the Annie E. Casey Foundation shows that involving children in summer activities that provide literacy enrichment from birth onward will ensure academic success and improve reading and writing proficiency. The Annie E. Casey Foundation also recommends that when we prioritize, support, and invest in results-driven initiatives, we can ensure positive outcomes from any student. And that was a need we saw here in Louisville and in Jefferson County. I mean, kids needed to do something intellectual during the summer. So that's when we started our summer reading program, and it has just taken off. We have libraries from all over the country calling us, asking us how we did it and what we do. I mean, it has just grown. It's just amazing how many kids we reach now with the summer reading program. And again, that was a need, and we get so much funding. We just funding. So, all right. That takes us to goal statement. You got to have goal statements, and that can be change in status, a condition to be changed. What do you want to accomplish with this grant? Goals are big picture statements. All right, and that change in status, usually use statements like to improve, to prevent, to enhance, to change. I mean, there's conditions to be changed, all kinds of conditions: literacy, homelessness, achievement, crime, parenting, all kinds. Now, those are different. Well, your goal statement, it again focuses on that ultimate outcome, that big picture statement. And here's some sample goal statements at the Louisville Free Public Library. Introduce children and families to the Louisville Free Public Library. Of course, that's a broad, big picture statement. Encourage adults to read to children. Reach participation of 50,000 youth. I kid you not, when we first wrote that, we thought that was like a big, way down the road. We are already there. So in 9 years, we've already reached that. So we've reached that. So that's great. Inspire 20,000 youth to read 10 books or more. We've already reached that. At that time, that was a long-range goal. And develop a lifelong habit and love of reading. Now that obviously is a broad, long-range picture that will never stop. Objectives. Objectives differ from goals as in they are measurable. All right, they're specific, a reasonable scope to your project. Measurable. Okay, they're quantifiable, attainable. Are you attempting too much? Always ask yourself. Realistic. Do you have the resources to make it happen? And timed. You know, you always want to state when you want to achieve that objective. Sample objectives here at the library: increase the circulation of books for children and teens. Obviously that can be measured. Increase the number of new library cards issued. Increase the attendance of children's story times and programs. Increase the number of children and teens reading 10 or more books each summer. Obviously all those are measurable. And your objectives need to be tied to that need statement. Remember that need statement, it drives your proposal. Programs, please. Don't forget your programs, your who, your target audience, your participants, what you're going to do, where will the activities take place, when, your timeline, how will things happen, how will you achieve your objectives and goals, who will do the work, credentials, always helpful. Staff and management plans, sometimes they'll ask for that. Job descriptions can help sometimes. Resume or bios for key positions. Again, credentials can help. Evaluations, like I said, a lot of times they'll ask for evaluations, and those will flow from your goals and your objectives and what's been your impact of the project. Have the objectives been achieved? And it's always good to look at yourself inside your organization, but you need, if you can get an outside source, funders like to see that as well. I mean, you need that outside evaluator to look at you, that fresh look. All right, a few words about budgets. I mean, like I said, they're always going to ask for your budget. Know your allowable costs, and those are going to vary from funder to funder. Don't estimate costs. Don't get lazy. Know how much things cost. Because if you don't, believe me, your funder will, and they will call you out on it every time. I mean, I've talked to so many people that work with budgets, and they pride themselves on finding errors like that. So don't inflate your budget figures or estimate them. Know what things cost. And if your cost to your organization, the project exceeds your cap, don't overextend yourself. Stay within your means. All right, some basic direct cost terminology. Costs, and those direct costs are costs that can be identified specifically with a particular sponsored project or can be directly assigned with a high degree of accuracy, and those include like salary, supplies, patient costs, travel, that kind of thing. And your budget, you got salaries, you got benefits, you got travel, you got consultants, supplies, materials, subcontractors sometimes, equipment. But don't forget those indirect costs. Remember stuff like internet fees, your telephone, housekeeping, security. Sometimes you don't think about those because those things kind of happen, but those need to be included. And your program's community. All budget items must be connected to your objectives and your activities in your proposal. Don't try to sneak in something else. We'll get called out on. And letters of support. Can't underestimate the importance of a letter of support. But please give those individuals time to write those letters. I mean, it sounds obvious, but believe me, I've heard nightmare stories of people, I need a letter tomorrow, can you get it to me? Please don't do that to that person. When I taught school, I knew they were going to do that to me. But if you're serious about receiving funding, don't do that to people. All right, and if grant is funded, of course, yay. But remember these words. Any changes has to have prior approval. I talked on that earlier. And there will be reporting always, expenses, programming data, so be prepared. They will always come back and ask you about that. And so you need to really keep those detailed records of, and yes, everything. And even for those smaller grants, those $50, $100 grants, they want to know. If people are giving you money, they want to know where it's going and what's going on. Okay, Rochelle, that's about all I have today. I hope some of this has been helpful to you.
Yeah, it's been great, Ken. Thanks so much. Some of the great points that I remembered: be organized, plan ahead, get those letters of support. If you do it like Ken, old school style with your binder, that's great, but just be organized so you're ready to submit your grant on time. Ken, I also loved your reminder to go to Louisville Free Public Library, but I want to shout out to all of our Kentucky public libraries because they're a super resource and they can point us in the right direction. Finally, the thing that I love learning from this webinar was that Ken reminded me, when you go in and you start researching on your grants, get a few, 10 or so, and get started. Opportunities that you're going to study. I made that mistake. I went in there, spent 2 hours at the library, and I had like a list of 40. And you know what I did with those? Nothing. It was just too much. I went on with my day. And here's a comment from one of our participants. If your objectives are SMART, are they measurable? And evaluation will follow from that. So all of us are learning what we need to know about objectives, about being organized, and finding resources like our local public libraries. So I wanted to just take a moment before we jump off the call here this afternoon and remind everyone of our great upcoming scheduled events. A lot of folks down there around Letcher County, please join us in June in Whitesburg for that in-person event. Also, June 19th, we'll have a webinar on the 2020 U.S. Census with our partners across Kentucky, Kentucky Youth Advocates, and our federal Kentucky Partnership Specialists from the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm honored to be serving you with this Health for a Change training series. Glad to make it free to all of us on the call today. I loved seeing everyone. Hi, Perry County. I see you on our call. Montgomery County. Great to see everyone from across Kentucky joining us today. so we can do this thing, which is improve health in our state. If you aren't already signed up for the Foundation's e-newsletters, you can do that on our website, healthy-ky.org. And a reminder that the slide decks and a recording of the webinar will be posted there very soon. The Events tab across the top, and you can go down to Health for a Change where the recordings will be. This afternoon, please check your emails. That's my cute little sleeping dog taking a nap. I will have a post-event survey for you. Please just take a couple minutes to let us know what you thought about the webinar, how we can improve, messages that you thought were especially important, and also make recommendations for future Health for a Change training events. I would love to hear from you about what you thought about today's webinar. Thanks for sticking around with us for this whole hour. It's been an honor to be on the call with you. Loved seeing everyone from across Kentucky joining us. And if I can be of help with something, please call on me. Thanks again to Ken for joining us from Louisville Free Public Library. And again, a great shout out to all of our public libraries in our communities for helping us do our good work across Kentucky. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great afternoon.